Hi, my name is Gudrun from GE Designs. Welcome to Tipsy Tuesday. Hey everybody, and thanks for being with me here on a Tipsy Tuesday episode. And welcome to all of you quarantine quilters that were with me last Sunday. I have to give you a little heads up, as our intro was playing, our internet was starting to get a little iffy. It's just because I think everybody's home and everybody's online. So we are recording this episode, so we will post the whole thing after the fact if we drop out. So just so you know. We have lots of new viewers, hopefully. So I just want to tell you, I so much appreciate you for being with me, and especially live. Make sure to tell us your name and where you're tuning in from in the comment section. On today's show, we will recap the whole quarantine quilt along that took place last Sunday, March 22nd. I have prepared a massive slideshow of some finished Elviras I found on Facebook, but of course, it's nowhere near to all the quilts that were created or started, because that would be an hour's worth of slideshows. So many of you have been so kind, and you expressed such gratitude over the demos on the Stripology Rulers through the quilt along, because you might have had it for a long time and didn't want to use it to its full potential. So later in the show, I really want to show you how you can put your ruler to work. So I'm going to show you how I cut up my scraps, so my leftovers and scraps from projects, and I'm going to show you my system as to how the pieces are that I like to collect and not hoard, so that they are standardized pieces that I can then incorporate into quilts and patterns. Just by having them ready, it makes such a difference. So something that works for me, and I of course want to share. Now I am here to answer all of your questions, whether it's pertaining to the topic we're talking about or not. So make sure just to post your questions in the comments if you're watching on whatever topic. And of course, we love to get the thumbs up and the hearts if you like what you're seeing or hearing. And just throw out a comment there if you want, and if you like what we're talking about. This video is of course shareable, so all you have to do is hit that share button, and that's the way to spread the quilting love all around. Now, let me see, we have a lot of people joining us live. We are over almost 600 people watching. That's great. That's incredible. So we have South Carolina, we have South Dakota, Ohio, Spokane, in Washington, North Carolina, Minnesota. We have Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Wyoming. That's great. Iowa's here, New Hampshire. Really great to see everybody. We have California's in the house. Thanks for being here. I appreciate it. It's so fun to see everybody joining in from all over, and really something that connects us. Now, every show we have a giveaway at the end, and this show we're going to have two winners. So we pull a random name from all the comments that you comment on during the live show. So we will let you know who is our winner towards the end of the show, and then we also pose a question at the end of the show that you can answer in the comments, and then before our next show we will draw a winner for that. So two winners are going to be happening on this show. The winner from our last show that was pulled from answering the questions on our last show, which was last week, I asked you, who would you make the Elvira quilt for? And our winner is Barb Nyhart. So Barb, and she said that she would make it for a veteran. So what a beautiful thing. Her quilt must have been patriotic in theme. So congratulations, Barb. You have won a $25 gift card to the GE Designs shop, online store. Congrats. And you can have a little shopping spree. And so I am so thrilled about the quarantine quilt along and how it all turned out, except for the overrun internet all over the world slowing us down. I really wouldn't have changed much on how the day went. That night, of course, I did feel like I ran a marathon, not just because of the nonstop day. Of course, it was all the days leading up to it, lots of work and preparation. So I'd love to hear what was your favorite part of the day. And just to show you, here are our stats. If you haven't seen this yet, I posted this yesterday. So our worldwide quarantine quilt along, that we involved 16,000 quilters from 37 countries made the Elvira quilt. And I have actually been told that I could add a couple more because of some people living in dual places. Now, before I show you all the Elvira quilts and play the slideshow for you, I wanted to show you the efforts of our special guests, our live guests on the show. So first up is Bonnie Hunter's quilt. She got her done. She got a queen-sized quilt done. How awesome is that? And Bonnie, even though you had these old fat quarters and you weren't sure how it was going to turn out, I love it. I think your son is going to love it. It's beautiful. So great. And it was fun. She sewed a little... She was sewing in the post office, and she leaves there at night and stuff, and leaves her 2 cats that live there. So when she showed up, she had them all laid out on the floor, and then the next day they weren't laid out nice anymore. So it would have been fun to be a fly on the wall to see those cats rearranging all her blocks. All right, so next up is Terry Atkinson's quilt. She got her done. Oh, look, this just looks like Terry. It's turquoise. She uses turquoise in every quilt. So I love this. I especially love that print with the beach houses. That one, I actually have that same pattern or that same fabric. I've used it in a quilt before, so I love that. So beautiful, beautiful. Then we have Debbie Brown. And Debbie did not just finish one quilt. She did a crib size. Of course, we all know this is a large crib size. It's more like a throw. But she's got some nieces that this is going to, and she finished a second one. She was already had a second one cut out of these ombres when we talked to her at 3 o'clock, and so she got her done that night as well. How cool is that? I love the effect of using ombres. And then we have Jane in Australia. Her quilt, of course, I got this picture when it came off the frame. She quilts them too. She's a long armer as well. But of course, we saw in the live show that she had it hanging on the wall, all bound and ready to go. So beautiful. I just love how she switched up the colors on each side of the diagonal strip and used a single strip throughout. And do you see that little black strip she added in there? It's so cool, just to change it up and have some fun with it. So beautiful, beautiful job. And here are my 2, they are still just tops. So the one that's behind me, here's my red Elvira. She's my red hot girl. This one is made with a just red stash builder bundle, and I threw in a fun print that I had that just matched perfectly. So that was kind of a directional print there that I love in there. And then my second one, Halloween one that I was working on, I finally got the right layout for it, and I had to make just a couple of more extra blocks because I needed a little more black to balance it out. So I'm really happy with this layout. So yeah, I said my 2 quilt tops that are finished, this one kind of is not. It's still just blocks. But you know what? All I need is an hour where I'm not doing something, and I will get her done. Now, all of the videos are now on YouTube and Facebook and will be available free forever. The pattern is now available for purchase, so the links are all in the profile. So I would love to hear, what was your favorite tip or technique that you learned on Sunday? I know a lot of people talked about bob, so all of us are just gonna say the word bob and everybody's gonna know what that means. Of course, bias on the bottom, but anything else that you picked up that would be really fun to for me to hear. So let's see if you have any. Oh, Betty says, I love that quilting teachers are supporting one another. Of course, we are all friends and we know our business, and that's my philosophy. You just gotta show love and you get love. So what you put out there comes back to you tenfold. So I love making friends in the industry. We learn from each other all the time. And so there's nothing better than supporting each other. There's room for everybody. All right, Sandra said, my favorite part of the Elvira quilt along was learning how to use the 60-degree rulers to cut off tips on slash cut. Loved all the ways to use the XL ruler. That's great. All right, let's see. Do we have any more fun questions? I love that you explained the process thoroughly, says Jerry. That's great. And Susan says, my favorite part of the quilt along was the distraction from all that's going on in the world. The day felt more like a normal weekend day. This is great. Okay, everybody's talking about Bob. What about Bob? The whole experience of at a stressful time. Yeah, I agree. So, and using the XL ruler. So yes, many of you have talked about that, how the XL ruler, they really weren't using it, or even just the original Stripology ruler, we weren't using it to its fullest potential. But let me tell you, this ruler will do everything. And once you start using it, you pretty much won't use much else. So just had to tell you that. And Linda says, I had never used the point trimmer, so they are great. They are so handy and just so nice because it's just a little tool and easy to maneuver and put around. So, all right, great. Great comments here. I'm going to read through them later and see. My favorite, Edwina says, my favorite tip was moving the ruler to cut the diagonal because I only have the original ruler. That really helped. Yeah, I'm all about, you know, you have to figure out where you're going to cut. If it's not going to get through where you cut, you just move it. As long as you have it angled the same correct way, you'll get the perfect cut, perfect accurate cut every time. So that's great. So a lot of you have actually were inspired and ordered the XL rulers and the trimmers. Thank you so much. We've been very busy getting your orders out, but we've actually been hindered by one thing, and that is shipping supplies. So we've actually noticed a little bit of a spike in shipping prices because we only charge actual shipping prices. The computer or our store calculates the actual cost, and then when we purchase the labels, sometimes it's higher than what the store had calculated. So we're seeing a little bit of a spike in shipping prices. But the biggest thing, USPS and their priority mail supplies are hard to find. So we were scouring everywhere for the right boxes that we like to use to ship our rulers, and there were nowhere to be found on Monday. So finally they arrived today. So don't worry, if you haven't gotten the shipping notification yet, you will get it in the morning. We are getting your rulers out. So it's always stressful when, you know, we got the stuff, we're ready to send it out, and then we can't because I of course want to make sure that the rulers are packaged properly because sometimes they do get thrown around quite a bit. All right, so let me tell you, I am so amazingly proud of you and all of your wonderful Elviras. I had so much fun going through them. There are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds. So I just kind of clicked through and I saved the photos of the ones that were actually sewn together. You know, no offense or anything. Maybe we'll have to do another slideshow with another 400 quilts. Who knows? But this was fun, and I hope this will be inspiring. So each one is more beautiful than the next, and they're as different as they are many. So it's just so much fun. So let's check this about a 4 or 5 minute slideshow of Elvira quilts. wasn't this fabulous? Yes, so many different ones, and I love how some of you changed it up and changed the layouts and changed the direction and whatever works for you. Some put sashing in, some put borders on. It's whatever works for you. I had gotten this question about borders in the last live session, I believe. For my quilts and for the fabrics I was using, I couldn't see it, but it all depends on what you're using and what you're working with. So, and then you might find the perfect print to border and kind of finish it all off. So don't, like I said, I encourage rebel behavior in my classes, and I encourage rebel behavior in my Facebook groups and all my sew along. So I love it because it gives me ideas too to play with things. So my main goal, of course, was not to have you finish a quilt. I, of course, wanted the pattern to be simple and doable, but still have lots of little teaching elements to it, some teaching opportunities. So, but my main goal of the whole day was to take our minds off what's really going on in the world right now, get into our happy place, and connect us all in the joy of quilting. So I loved seeing all your comments and getting your emails. Thank you for those about what you experienced on Sunday. This one though, when I saw this comment or this post, I had to save it because this is exactly what I wanted to happen. So I'm going to read it to you. So this was from Joanne. So I'm pressing my B blocks, listening to the playlist, and Billy Idol comes on. I'm from that generation, and I've spent a lot of time today alone in my sewing room, so I start to dance. Of course, the song is Dancing with Myself. Then the music takes over. I'm doing the pogo full out, just like I'm in high school again. My boxer comes up to see what was going on, and he joined me. Now there's two of us bouncing around in my little space. My hair's flying, hair clips gone, glasses gone. Logan is having a great time, and my Boston Terrier comes in and wants in on the fun. I scoop her up and dance around with Rogue while Logan jumps around me, and we're having a blast. Then the song ends, and a Spotify ad starts. I hear from the doorway, "You know you have an audience." My husband came up to see what all the noise was about, but he looked out my sewing room window and saw people who had been walking their dogs had stopped and were watching the show. What could I do? I took a bow. Now back to my sewing. I so love this. And this is exactly what I wanted. Just get lost and live in the moment. Forget about everything else. Have fun doing what we love to do. And just dance. If stress comes back, just dance and sew a few more seams, and it's all good in the neighborhood. So yes, take a bow and smile, because those people walking by were just kind of probably a little bit jealous that you were having so much fun. So I hope more of you had this much fun in your sewing room, because that was my main goal. So now let me ask you this. Would you do this again? Yes, my mind is, of course, always brewing. Anything you would like to see specifically? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Just know this, I cannot fulfill everyone's dreams. Just know that. But my mind is a brewing. Now, I have seen some comments, and especially in my group on Facebook, if you haven't joined the group yet, Gudrun's Quilt Crew, please do. So I had seen some comments and posts about making masks. So a lot of sewers are making masks, and we should do that. So I just want to say this. There are so many people that have great patterns for masks. There's so many groups that are doing masks. That is not my specialty. It's probably something I wouldn't enjoy, because I just love making quilts and piecing. And so, but I love the fact that so many people are doing it, and I highly encourage you to do it. But this is something that I would not be the leader in doing. So if you have, I think what I'm going to do, I'm going to do a little post. If somebody wants to get in on making masks, I'm going to do a little post, and then you can post your links if you have links to good groups or sites where you can get patterns, and then that will be it. So we don't have that coming up again and again in the group, and we can just focus on quilting. Is that a deal? All right, good. Not against making masks at all. It's a great thing, but you make sure you check that there are institutions or places that want them. Not all of them want them. I know there's a couple of hospitals in my area that don't want them, because yeah, for some reason or another. I'm not going to go into that debate. Anyways, what I wanted to tell you again about my group and the reason for you joining is that every year I do a strip along in my group. So a strip along is just a more fun version of a sew along. But this is where I take an existing pattern of mine that uses 2.5-inch strips, and then I just break it down into steps, and we do it together over a period of time. So maybe over 3 to 4 weeks. So, and then each week I will kind of give you the video demos in my live sessions, and then tell you which steps I want you to complete until we meet again for the next step. And it's always really kind of fun because I try to always include a lot of new tips because I choose a pattern that was created before the Stripology Rulers, for example. So I give you some more alternate ways of doing, so stripologize the pattern, and then also give you maybe some alternate layouts, alternate versions, and of course, I always use totally different colors or fabric choices than I use for the cover of the pattern. So I had this strip along, our yearly strip along, scheduled for end of April into May. But I think this is a perfect time to move it up. So next Friday, this coming Friday, during my Facebook Friday episode, so I go live every Friday in the group at 3 p.m. Central Time when I'm home, which is I'll be home for a while. So I will officially announce the strip along. And that means I will introduce you to the pattern that I've chosen. I'll show you my fabric pool for the strip along, which is, like I said, always different from the cover. And then the pattern itself will be offered to all of you for half price. So both in paper and PDF form. So make sure to tune in this coming Friday if you want something fun to do in the next few weeks. So each week we'll go through each of the steps, some of the steps, and then you'll always have a whole week to catch up. So this is something you can do on the side if you're working on other stuff, and it's really fun to kind of be handheld throughout a whole quilt. And then the fun part, of course, we get to see so many different versions of the same pattern in all kinds of different colorways. So that's what's fabulous. So I will announce the dates, exact dates for all the demos so part 1 through 4. Some of you may have done the Ava quilt along that we just finished, and that was on a Tipsy Tuesday episodes. So it'll be similar to that. So this Friday you'll know exactly the dates on when I will do the demos, but of course the videos are always available afterwards. But this is why you have to join the group, because we always do my strip alongs in the group, which is a closed group, so only the videos will be seen in there. I will post kind of excerpts of some of the videos on YouTube and my blog, but of course you won't get the whole video. So any questions on all of that information? Let me just check on you guys. Is it Friday yet? Not Friday yet. I got a little work to do before then. Can we have a hint of the pattern? Possibly. I appreciate any distraction you can provide. Okay, I'm always good for... okay, so what time Mel says is 3 p.m. Central Time. So remember when we did part 4 of the quarantine quilt along when Debbie was on? That's the same time, so you can think about that and kind of apply it to wherever you are in the world. So Mary says, let's bust the stash so we can buy more fabric. I like that idea. Love that idea. Okay, so Marcia says, Pat Sloan has collected many sites for mask patterns available on her website. Perfect. Everybody go there if you want to make masks. That's great. All right, so Kathy says, I especially like the 1 day instead of over weeks. Let's figure out a way to get you some revenue, though. Don't worry, I'm thinking. My mind is brewing. So this is great. And this does not mean that we're not going to do a full day like this. Just hold on. It all needs to come together. And we need to have a little break. All right. I don't see any text with this one. How do we pay for this? So you don't pay for the sew along, you just pay for the pattern. So on Friday I'll announce, and then you'll be able to get the pattern. I'll announce the pattern, and then you'll be able to buy it from my website for half price. Okay, so what is the name of the group? Gudrun's Quilt Crew. Maybe put this back up. So just spell my name, Gudrun, and then you put S in that search bar on Facebook, and it'll pop up for you. So actually, if you're on the GE Designs page right now watching this show, on the GE Designs page there is it says group, and then all you have to do is click on there. And of course, if you have friends that you think would enjoy that, add them to the group. If you're already in the group, you can add people to the group even though it's closed. Okay, so, oh, that's so kind. Somebody, Deb says, you're such a great instructor and entertaining. Would love to do another sew along. That's great. That's fabulous. Okay, any other questions on, everybody wants to do another quilt. Everybody wants to do a full quilt. Okay, Joyce says, how much fabric? Quilt store is closed, new, and don't have a stash. Well, this quilt shop is not closed. Not all quilt shops are closed. Online shops are working very well. This is going to be from 2.5-inch strips. So I will give you all the details on Friday. You will have plenty. You will have a whole week to gather your supplies until we start working on it. Can you cut your own strips for Friday? Of course, absolutely. I'll be using my strip collection, which I'm going to show you here in a little bit. So I'm pulling from strips that I already have pre-cut from leftovers and scraps. All right. Dory says, where will I find the time to work on my other projects with all these new fun events coming along? Well, I don't know. Possibly if you're not working, if you're quarantined, that's all we do, right? And we always have to have quite a few in the works, right? If we do get bored with one, you can always flip to the other one. Or the other 16. How long will the strip along be half off? We usually do it for about 2 weeks. So 2 weeks, you'll be able to get the pattern. So whole week before we start, and then a whole week after we have started. Is it a brand new pattern or one we have seen before? It's one you have seen before. It's been out. So I always try and choose older patterns that don't have the Stripology instructions in it. And then, because that gives me so many other teaching opportunities to show you different ways of doing things than what we used to do in the olden days before the Stripology ruler. All right, Leah says, I'm never buying anything but half yards again. LOL, I love the way you cut and organize. So that's a great kind of lead into my next segment. So keep adding those questions. I will, yeah, if you have jelly rolls, somebody says jelly roll work? Yes, absolutely, jelly rolls will work. So if you have more questions, post them. I'll go back and answer all your questions if I didn't get to it live. So my scrap cutting session. So first off, I have been doing this for about 20 years. So I've been quilting for a little bit over 20 years. And I was lucky enough early on in my career to take a class with Debbie Caffrey. And when in her class, she had just come out with her book called Open a Can of Worms, which used 2.5-inch strips. So in her class, she encouraged us, whenever you're working on a project and your leftovers, you know, you have those yardage leftovers, if it was less than 1/3 of a yard, to just cut it up into 2.5-inch strips and save them that way, instead of folding up that little piece of fabric and stick it somewhere you never find it again. First of all, I would pull it out and then it's all wrinkly and you have to press it, and then it's really never enough for anything, and then you have to cut it. So I started doing this years and years ago. I cut all my leftovers into strips, 2.5-inch strips. I started collecting 2.5-inch strips, and soon after I started cutting 1.5-inch strip, because you know, sometimes I couldn't get a 2.5, but I could cut a 1.5. So I started saving those. And then of course, as I became a designer, I started designing 2.5-inch strip patterns way before the jelly rolls came out. And then I started designing with charm squares. Then they started coming out, and layer cakes, the 10-inch squares. So those are kind of units that I used all the time. But I actually always preferred going into my own that I'd cut myself for a few different reasons. Whenever I used a pre-cut, I like to, I should say, enhance them. So swap out some unfortunate pieces maybe. And then also the fact that we all have experienced, if you ever bought any kind of pre-cut, that they are not accurately cut, rarely do we get a perfectly accurate 5-inch square or 10-inch square or a 2.5-inch strip that does not look like this with an elbow. So I prefer the ones that I cut myself. So I started, even if I pulled some out of a pre-cut, I put them into my drawers of strips, and then I would use it all the time. And so I started also, when I wanted to maybe have a curated collection of strips or 10-inch squares, I love to just cut them myself. So in my newest book, the Stripology Mixology book, I actually talk about how I prefer to either collect fat quarters or half yards, and this is the way I cut them up. So let me show you this graphic first. So I would take a fat quarter or a half yard, and then you fold it just like you would when you're cutting with a Stripology ruler. So you cut a 10-inch strip, and then I cut two 2.5-inch strips, and then I cut one 1.5-inch, and sometimes I'll get two 1.5-inch strips out of it, depending on how gracious your quilt shop was when you were cutting it. So this way, from 21 half-yard cuts, I get 2 full layer cakes, 1 full jelly roll, and 42, sometimes double, 1.5-inch strips, which is a total bonus. And I have, of course, if you can always take those 10-inch squares and cut them into 5-inch squares if you need those. But this is the way I like to kind of store my stuff, and then this is ready for me to just pull and start making a quilt. And so this graphic, if you want to print it out or have it somewhere, I have it on my website. It's just under free patterns and templates. So go under there and then you can pull it up and print it out. It's also in my mixology book if you have that one. So whenever I have leftovers for projects these days, these are the sizes that I cut them into. So I cut 10-inch squares or 5-inch squares, 2.5-inch strips or 1.5-inch strips. I normally don't keep 2.5-inch strips unless they are full width, or if I'm cutting half width, like from a fat quarter, I'll put 2 together so I know the amount of that fabric equals a 1 full strip. Now 1.5-inch strips are great, just a half width, so about 21 inches. Now if I have any random pieces that are not a full width or a half width, they can always go into all kinds of squares and 10-inch squares or 5-inch squares or anything like that. So I wanted to just show you kind of how I do. So when I am ever working, now this normally is not this neat. So I have this basket that whenever I have leftovers, so I just throw it in the basket, which is usually very messy. But when it's chock full, then it's time to cut stuff up. So these are all my leftovers the leftovers I prepped to show you, because I've gone ahead and pressed them all so I can show you. So I just want to show you some of the ways that I do things and how I decide on the different pieces. So I got my XL ruler ready to go. So I'm going to start with these random pieces that could be 10-inch squares. So I'm going to start with this piece. This was a fat quarter, but it's not a full fat quarter anymore. So I don't like to save a full a fat quarter that's been chopped off, because then if I were to pull it out, and it wouldn't be enough for if I were to choose it for a project. And here's a fabric that is full width, but it's not quite 1/3 of a yard. So I'm going to cut that into 10-inch squares. These are all kind of little pieces that would go into 10-inch squares. This is not quite a fat quarter, not even full width. So I will just fold them in half. So I'm kind of stacking the folds here on the bottom. And we can do quite a few layers. We'll see. This is probably good for now. And then I just take my ruler. I actually brought my 60mm cutter because this one can go through so many layers. So you want to go through about, you can go through about 10, 12 with this big cutter, just because you'll see the blade goes out so much farther. But with a 45, I wouldn't do more than like 6 layers of fabric. So I just kind of align the bottom line here on any of my folds, and I cut through the 0 first, and then I just cut my 10-inch strip. And if I have anything left, I actually just start cutting either 2.5 or 1.5. Now these are all kind of not even full width, so I'm just going to cut 1.5-inch strips from the rest of this, because they can be great to use up some little stuff. So I just cut on the 11.5, 13, and then 14.5. And so here I have my 10-inch strip, and then I have some 1.5s. This is just scrap, so this goes away, and some little 1.5-inch fun strips to play with. And then this goes into 10-inch squares. So I can just stack them up. I want to make sure that I stack all of the salvages on the same side. Now this piece is odd, so probably only going to get one from that. And this one I'll get 2, and this I'll probably get 2. So I just repeat this and stack this back up, and I make my cuts on the 0 and the 10, and then I'll have my 10-inch squares. So of course then when I store them, now this is like little bitty leftovers, so these could be cut into 2, this one could be cut into 2 5-inch squares, for example. If you want to keep at it, I probably would do that. But these are my 10-inch squares now that go into my bins that I collect, and I organize them by color or by theme. So I'm going to show you those, what I use later. Here's other ones that I could get 1 square out of these random pieces. So then when I have all these full width fabrics, so these are perfect for strips. So these would just get cut into 2.5-inch strips, and I like to just stack them and be as efficient as I can. So I just kind of line them up, multiples here. And I think this, as I'm looking at these little fabrics that are all going to be cut into 2.5-inch strips, that might determine my theme for my strip-along quilt. But then I bring the ruler over, and I just make sure to align the folds on the bottom and make sure that the top folds are also straight so I don't get any elbows in my strips. And I can go, this one I'll go a 2.5, and I can get a 1.5 as well. So 2.5, and then I'm going to cut on the 4 because I'll get another 1.5-inch strip. So here, this one is lined up, and I can adjust it to start on the 5. So my next cut would be on the 7.5, and then I could get a 9. I could get another 1-inch strip here, 1.5-inch strip. So then I line this one here. This is going to be cutting on the 10. But see how you can be efficient with stacking them all up there. I won't be getting a 1.5 out of this. And then here we go one more time on the 14. And that will be then 16.5 gives me a 2.5. And I probably won't be getting on the 19. No. So I'll get a, where am I? 16.5, so 17.5, 18. That'll give me a 1.5-inch strip. So that's how I kind of just stack up all my stuff and spend maybe 20 minutes, and I get all this stuff cut up like this. So I have my 1.5-inch strips and my 2.5-inch strips. And of course here I got some wider pieces. So this one I would probably cut a 5-inch. They're not quite 10 inches though. So I would cut a 5-inch strip and then some 2.5. So then that 5 could either go into squares. I actually sometimes like to just save it as a 5-inch strip. And then it depends on what I need it for. Do I need 5-inch squares? Then I will cut squares. If I do need 2.5-inch strips, I can take that 5-inch strip and just cut it apart and have 2 strips. So that kind of is a new strategy for me. So then how do I store all my collections? So I have my 5-inch squares are in these art bin boxes. They're 5-inch boxes, and they close nicely and they fit in here, so I can go by color or by theme in here. So I have some greens in here. And then my 10-inch squares, I actually recently was introduced to these bins at Target. They're from Target. The art bins were from online somewhere, I think. But these are, let me show you, the Easy Storage, carton storage container. So it's a 6-quart container. This is the depth of it. I would say this is about 3.5 inches or so. And there's also taller ones. They only had the taller ones at my Target the other day, which I bought some too. But this is nice because I can arrange all my 10-inch squares in here. This is my Christmas bin, and so I have all of my Christmas fabrics in here. I think this would be enough for a couple of quilts, so it's time to go diving into this one. But I love this size, and they stack up nicely, but I always like to have clear bins because then I see exactly what I have. And then I have my 2.5-inch and 1.5-inch strips. They are in these Sterilite drawers. So I am gonna just pull them out and show you. So these are really a great size. I pull out my, this is where my strips are. So I organize them by color. So here are my black and grays. Show you here. And like 2.5, you can stack them up like this and they fit perfect in these. And I have my blues, and here's my reds. And so I always have a rotating collection of 2.5-inch strips because I have a few of these set up in my studio, but this is a rotation all the time because you never know when you need that certain color. And so there's a variety of fabrics in here that span quite a few years. So after I'm done cutting all my stuff, then I just sort my strips into color families and then easily pop them into the right drawers. So it's accessible, it's easy to manage and maneuver, and best of all, it's easy to find. When I want to make a quilt, I just start pulling out. And I've been asked why only the 2.5-inch and the 1.5-inch strips. Why not 2-inch or 3-inch or whatever? These are the sizes that I use. These are also the sizes of the pre-cuts. So I have written books on 1.5-inch strips. I've written 2 books on 2.5-inch strips. I've written so many patterns for charm squares, and then lots of patterns for 10-inch squares plus a book. And then of course my mixology book mixes it all together. So I love playing with these units. I think they're great units. And for example, I had to do a quilt. I designed a quilt and I was sewing a quilt, scrappy one, but I needed 2-inch strips and I used all these different blues and navies, and it was so great to just grab my 2.5-inch strips and I just trimmed them. 1/4 inch on each side, and I could have that variety just by pulling it out instead of finding fabric and start doing all the cutting. All I had to do is I lined them up on my cutting mat and just cut on each side, and I got my 2-inch strips instantly, really fast. So questions on all of this? Oh, will you be getting more of your super duper cutting mats, and if so, when? Yes, so they sold out in the whole country and they are made over in Taiwan. So things were, of course, a little bit delayed, but we are expecting them early April. So they will be coming back into stock, into stores. So that's great. All right, so let me see any other good questions. How do you prevent elbows? Dahlia, so I recommend, I have a lot of videos on my website. So go to my website under videos, and that's where actually all the new quarantine quilt along videos are. But there's a section that says tutorials under the video tab. All of the tutorials videos are there, and that includes a lot on the Stripology ruler. They are called Stripology 101. The key is you need to have your fold on the bottom and your fold on the top perfectly parallel. If you do that, that's all you need to think about to get straight strips. You get them straight without elbows every time. That's the only thing that matters. So, Susan asked, do you starch before you cut into strips or squares? No, I don't normally starch. I mean, if my fabrics, I had been maybe working on a project where I did a little best press or something, I don't mind that, and that just goes in there with anything. But I normally don't starch. Betsy says, what is the name again of the Target 10-inch containers? Oh, they're gonna get sold out. I better go get me more. No, just kidding. Let me show you in the overhead. Easy storage, carton storage container. I'm gonna bring it up close. Carton storage container. I think they're $2 this size. So Target better go stock up. But they're great. The lid also, it's not like a lock lid, but it has a little lip so it stays on. But it's easy to open though. It does snap in, so I like that. And it stacks nicely. I have my shelves in my sewing room are IKEA, so some of them have the wider, and then I have a couple of narrow ones, and these fit like perfectly on that. Do you trim the salvages to get the fold even? No, I don't. So when you fold it, you take your bolt fold, you fold it over the salvages, because the salvages don't matter. They're crooked and everything. So you bring the fold over the salvages. All you see at the top is the top fold, your bolt fold, and then you created a second fold on the bottom. So those two need to be perfectly parallel to get your straight strips. CNN, oh, Sheila says CNN was bragging about Iceland's response to the coronavirus today. Yeah, they did really, really well. And now they've also taken even extra steps. So there's pretty much the whole country is under lockdown, which many cities here are now as well. So they kept taking extra and extra steps. But right away, they were on it. So it was great. Margie says, how many 10-inch squares can you get into one of these? Ooh, I don't know. I would say this size, but then like the other size I have is steeper even. But I would say this would fit 1, 2, 3, probably 4 layer cakes. So that's 200 squares, definitely. And I like the bigger ones. So if I'm, if I have a project and I have some blocks done, that would fit in there too and really could stay nice and neat in there too. Are they in the craft area or like the kitchen area? I think they're in like the storage area where you get the tubs and all these plastic tubs and stuff. Christina asked, do you save and do anything with your salvages? I don't personally. I did, when I was designing fabric, I saved some salvages, so I still have them. I haven't done anything with them. I probably never will, but I did. But I just know that that's just not something I do, so I don't save them. But I leave them on my strips. All right. So a reason for why I do that, because sometimes, fabrics can be different widths. And if you are doing something that requires 42 inches of the strip, sometimes you get saved with that big selvage. You can kind of sneak it into the seam. What design do you recommend for quilting? I'm such a newbie. Actually, I have a link. So in the video that we're watching right now, there's all these links that are included in the description of the video. I included a link to Debbie Brown's website, which has all of her classes, and she has classes on both free motion quilting, walking foot quilting. She will be taping a class, probably not until, a couple of weeks or so. She's gonna do her Elvira quilts 2 different ways, one with a free motion foot and one with a walking foot. So those classes will be available, but just give her some time. You probably don't know, but taping things, it can take a while. It's a lot of planning and a lot of things, and we don't have a huge production where people are standing by ready to edit. We always have to do it ourselves. Or when you have a Mr. Producer that I do, I'm lucky. I'm the really lucky girl, so we can get them out faster. All right, Jan says, my mat was still in my suitcase from the Minnesota show in June. Dug it out on Sunday and love how fast cutting is with it. That's great. So she's talking about the Creative Grids cutting mats that I designed that work really well with the Stripology Rulers. All right, where are the containers available? The 10-inch square ones and the drawers are Target or probably any other, Walmart, any other store. I don't know if the easy ones are at Walmart or anywhere else, but definitely. Is the link in this video or in the Elvira video? The link is in this video, so a description of this video. So you can find it easy. All right. Any other questions? I saw one down there. Do you put your 1.5-inch strips in the same drawers? Yes, I do. It's the same. It'd be the same way. They're just, they're just shorter, but I arrange them the same way. So I have like 3 drawers or 1.5-inch strips. What product do you use for your personalized quilt label, says Sydney. So I order them from Spoonflower. So I just buy a yard with my logo and some room to write. And so I ordered just a yard, and it's easy, very easy to do. Excuse me. All right, any other questions? So now you know how I cut up my leftovers and scraps, and it just goes so well. But I didn't talk about the best part. The most fabulous part is all of your strips are going to be perfectly accurate and exactly the same size. So they're so sharp and ready to go, perfectly accurate, of course, using the ruler. So that is the best part. Now I have a couple of things. So we have a lot of stuff coming into the store this week. I'm so excited. I can't wait, because you know me, I'm a fabricaholic, and when I get new fabric in, I usually have to sneak away at least a bundle for myself. So I have a new bundle that is coming. Well, it's here already, and it's already in the store. So brand new line from Robin Pickens for Moda. It's called Abbey Rose. So we both have the layer cakes. I'll show you that. So they're really great big cabbage roses. And so in this line we have blues, turquoise, there's some orange and greens, really kind of limey greens, and then beautiful pinks. So when I put together a half yard bundle, I always try to, I pick my favorite colors out of the line. So 12 different prints that I feel have a lot of variety. They have a variety of large scale, small scale, a little directional like a stripe or something, some of them with a geometric design. So here is the bundle for Abbey Rose that's available. So I chose to use just the blues and the pinks. So let me show you these. So we'll start with this really large scale print. It's just gorgeous. So this is the big floral. And then I chose just really pretty blues that went from this dark, I think kind of like a peacock blue, like this, and of course included some of her thatched, which is her solid, but it's got a little texture to it. And then going into those more turquoise colors and that other colorway of the big rose, and then just the beautiful, beautiful pinks. I think this will be so pretty for a springtime quilt. What a perfect way to bring in spring. So here's a little directional stripe to it, and I love this one with both a light pink and the dark pink. So this is the new Abbey Rose bundle. I love that. And we will have so much more new stuff coming in. Hopefully I can show you a lot on Friday too, but very exciting. So we have to announce our live winner. So Mr. Producer is on that. And so it's Janet. Congratulations, Janet Len. I don't know how you pronounce that. Sorry if I butcher it. But congratulations, Janet. You can go shopping for $25. We will get you that gift card, and whether it's downloadable products or something we ship to you, we will get it to you. So that is it. Do we have any more questions I need to address before we log off tonight? Thanks again for being with us. Do you break apart your layer cakes into your tubs? No, so I save them. If I'm using layer cakes, I save them full until it's time for a project. But as I explained, I never use pre-cut all the way up. It's very rare. There are some patterns of mine that work that way, but I usually kind of pick and choose. And so normally when I know I'm going to use a layer cake for a project, I will buy two so that I can kind of mix and match and have fun. But then the ones that don't make it, they go into the tubs, or maybe some other ones from the tubs will make it into the quilt if I need it a little more balanced. That's the other thing with layer cakes. Sometimes they're not balanced. If I want a colorway with, like, for example, blues and pinks, and you will get maybe 2 blues and 10 pinks in a layer cake. And that's why I love the bundles, because I can make them really well balanced so they're ready to just go into a quilt. Dahlia says, I tried to join the Quilt Group Facebook page. I got an acceptance, but it still shows pending. Will this, yes, this will be where the Friday class will be, yes. But if it's pending, it just means we have to go in and accept you. So don't worry, you'll be accepted in a few minutes. All right. Let's see, is there anywhere in Canada to get your rulers? So my rulers are sold in quilt shops all over. So only in independent quilt shops. So they're not sold in chains. So independent quilt shops, yes, there's plenty of quilt shops that carry the Creative Grids rulers and have my rulers in Canada. I want to give you a little bit of a warning. They are available from some quilt shops on Amazon. But these past few months, we actually have been struggling with counterfeits. So people are advertising the Stripology Rulers and then shipping counterfeits. And it was even happening when you would shop from a quilt shop on Amazon, like Quilt in a Day or other quilt shops that are on Amazon. And if it was fulfilled by Amazon, Amazon was compiling, you know, original rulers with counterfeits, and so you never really knew if you were getting what you paid for. So just a little warning on Amazon with the Stripology Rulers. All right, Lynn says, can you show the box label one more time? Okay, I should, you know what I'll do? I'll take a picture and I will post it in, let's see, there it is. Carton storage container, 6 quart. All right, stackable. So, yes, any other question? I am a lucky girl with my producer, honey. You got a little nod there. He loves that. Okay, yummy fabric. That's so good. All right, I agree. So just wait, there's more coming. Anyways, we want to finish this off, of course, with another opportunity to win and win a gift card for the store. So maybe some of these fabric will be coming home with you. So I have a question for you. And all you have to do to be entered in the giveaway is answer this question. So that means even though you're not watching live, you can answer the questions in the comments and still be entered to win this giveaway. So the question is, do you cut your leftovers up into usable pieces? Or what do you do with them? Do you just stuff them back on the shelves? Or what do you do? Are you inspired to start cutting things up? I hope you are. I always hope that you are inspired by what I try and show you. So just let me know, like I said, in the comments, and we will announce next week on our Tipsy Tuesday show. Next week, yes, we are going to be on every week now. And I would love for you, of course, to share the video. If you like what you saw, please share. That is a way for us to get our name out there and get some more people, fun people, to join us. And so that is showing us the love by hitting that share button. So the next Tipsy Tuesday will be next week, March 31st. 7 p.m. Central Time. And of course, if you are, or if you're not yet, join Gudrun's Quilt Crew on Facebook. I will be live this Friday with Facebook Friday. And of course, we kick every show off with a cocktail. And I will be announcing the upcoming strip along, so you don't want to miss it. But thanks for joining me tonight. I will see you next time.